Lies and deceits and untruths, so who really is paying their fair share of taxes? The wealthier the person, the greater the opportunities to enjoy non-taxable income from capital gains, expense accounts, tax-free municipal and state bonds, stock options, and various kinds of business and professional deductions. It has been argued that if the rich were more heavily taxed, this would make no appreciative difference in total federal revenue, since wealthy people are so few in number. In fact, families with incomes of $100,000 and above, about 1/3 of 1% of the population, receive tax preferences of more than $11 billion annually. And there are the many billions which rich corporations fail to pay. Companies like Chase Manhattan Bank, AT&T, Ford Motor Company, U.S. Steel, Exxon, and Texas Gulf pay little or no taxes each year. That's just to name a few. GM was able to pull it off and make the American people pay $26 million after they paid no taxes. That's just to name a few. In fact, if the top 100 corporations were taxed at the same rate as the average middle-income family, there would be enough revenue for all federal expenditures on behalf of the poor, the education, housing, environmental protection, medical care, and much more. While the share of the federal revenues coming from individual taxpayers has been rising, the portion paid by corporations has dropped from 50% in 1945 to 14% in 1979. Nor do these tax cuts act as a spur to new investments, since most of the tax deductions are taken against investments that would have been made anyway. And past experience shows that tax windfalls to big companies neither ease unemployment nor trickle down to wage earners, but certainly do their share in feeding inflation and fattening profits. While corporations claim they need still more tax benefits in order to have sufficient capital for investment, the truth is that major producers are engulfed by a massive cash flow and are casting about the interesting divisions of their money. In 1977, the oil industry cash flow amounted to more than $30 billion. Its return on investment capital jumped 30%, amounting to $10.7 billion after taxes. There was no capital shortage, and there were more profits than ever. The following year, Congress passed a tax law that cut corporate taxes by yet another $3.7 billion and capital gains by $2.8 billion. Some corporations, like the private utilities, not only failed to pay their fair share but also pocket most of the tax dollars charged to their customers. In 1975, the largest utilities collected taxes on their monthly billings to customers, but by taking advantage of write-offs, they were able to keep the lion's share, $1.5 billion, for themselves. In addition, an estimated 350,000 companies are illegally withholding Social Security and income taxes from their employees' paychecks and then pocketing the money. Few of these delinquent firms have been prosecuted by the Internal Revenue Service. The activities of the IRS reflect the same class bias that permeates the rest of the government. The agency is more likely to audit the itemized returns of lower than upper income persons. With the giant corporations, the IRS is downright lackadaisical. Third, its failure to audit AT&T properly cost about $3 billion in lost revenue. It's also noted that Congress went ahead and passed a law that the corporations could go ahead and steal your pensions. It wasn't until 2006 that they came up with the Pension Reform Act, because people became involved and demanded that they don't have their pensions ripped off and be treated more fairly in the tax system. They have an H.R. 25. They feel that that might be a more fair system if it can get implemented, but somewhere it's just more or less died off. All this chaoticness and arguing over who's paying and who isn't paying is getting ridiculous. It's obvious that the country is in a big crisis, especially now with the deficit and the funding of the war and the money that's been lost. 2.1 trillion in the Iraqi war is basically vanished. And the whistleblower military men that have come forward and wanted to hold the government accountable were fired. And they can't get jobs in the corporate world nor in the military once you become a whistleblower. So we need whistleblower laws so that we have a check and balance as well. And we need to get more honest people to run for office to stop this nonsense.